Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, the first proper video that I'm doing on this channel since I came back from my short little stint away from YouTube, and today we're going to be reviewing the first 60th anniversary special for Doctor Who entitled The Star Beast. Now, for kind of a backstory for those of you who are not familiar with my relationship with Doctor Who, I was a fan of this show all the way back from 2005. The very first episode I ever watched was the Christmas Invasion, the Christmas special, which was David Tennant's very first episode on Christmas Day. I've got very vivid memories of watching that episode. And now, of course, with this 60th anniversary, we have these three specials that are going to be coming out over these next few weeks. Of course, this is bringing us back David Tennant playing the Doctor, this time the 14th Doctor rather than the 10th Doctor, and of course, Russell T Davies as the showrunner. And to be honest with you, I've just been mainly trying to find any excuse whatsoever to talk about Doctor Who on this channel, so I felt the 60th anniversary is upon us. It's kind of a celebration of everything Doctor Who, and of course, we just had this episode, so I thought, why not sneak out a review before we get the next episode in only a couple of days' time from when I'm actually recording this, because I am admittedly a little bit late, but hey, better late than never, so might as well get the review out whilst I still can. Just as a heads up warning though, before you get any further on with the video though, this will be a spoiler review, so if you have not seen The Star Beast and you plan on watching it and you don't want to be spoiled on anything, please do not proceed any further in this video, because I will be talking about plot points and spoilers. Proceed no further if you don't want the episode spoiled for you. Of course, with The Star Beast, the main plot of the episode is that we follow this newly regenerated 14th Doctor, of course, played by David Tennant. Very much has the same face as the 10th Doctor. He ends up landing in London, conveniently bumps into Donna Noble, who is one of his former companions. There's a lot of backstory to get into with them, but basically they used to be companions during his 10th incarnation. He ended up having to wipe her memory, and basically, if she remembers him, she will die. But he bumps into her right as a ship lands in the middle of London, carrying this creature called Beep the Meep, who is being hunted by the Wrath Warriors. And basically, Unit is involved in this, and it's up to the Doctors to try and figure out what on earth is going on, whilst obviously, of course, trying to deal with the fact that he's now bumped into Donna when he's having to stride this line of her not remembering him, whilst also trying to stop this alien shenanigans going on in the middle of London. So starting off with the positives for the Star Beast, the first thing I just want to have to say is I am a sucker for the 14th Doctor, and I am completely and utterly biased in saying that, because David Tennant is one of my favourite actors of all time. I just adore him in everything that he's in, and the 10th Doctor is my favourite version of the Doctor. I have always loved that version. Admittedly, yes, it is biased because I did grow up with his incarnation, but I can't help it because I just think he's so good in this role. He feels like a fan just let loose with the keys of the lead character in his favourite show, you know, because he is a big fan of Doctor Who himself, and you feel it with the 14th Doctor. And I like the fact that they do stick close to his 10th incarnation in terms of his characterization, but it does feel like that this isn't just 10th Doctor repeated. This is actually somebody who has obviously regenerated into the 11th, the 12th and the 13th Doctor in that meantime. He carries that baggage with him, but he doesn't feel as weighed down by it all as the 10th Doctor did, especially towards the end of his tenure, and especially the last time he had a story with Donna and the family, which was The End of Time, which was his last episodes. I really liked what David Tennant did here, and I really liked the way that he explored the 14th Doctor, and I just liked the way that he did add subtle changes in his performance to what he did when he was playing the 10th Doctor, and I just love seeing him in this episode, because again, I love the 10th Doctor, I love David Tennant, so you can't really go wrong with having him in these specials, and it was just so nice to see him just slip straight back into the role. And of course, just Donna as well, because Donna is also my favourite companion of the show. So seeing her again was really good, and I just really liked seeing how it kind of felt like we were seeing Donna like how we did in The Runaway Bride, which was her first episode on Doctor Who, kind of how she's always just conveniently missing all these alien invasions. There's a great moment at the start of the episode when obviously the ship crashes on Earth and she misses it. I thought that was brilliant, and just in general, it's just so nice to see her again, and her back and forth with the 14th Doctor, both when she isn't aware of who he is and at the end of the episode where of course she finds out and she remembers everything about her adventures with the Doctor and they're interacting. I just thought was really good, and I just love the two of them together. Like Catherine Tate and David Tennant, they bounce off each other so well, and you can just tell throughout the episode that they're having a blast, and I really liked what they did with Donna in this episode for the most part. And also just reconnecting with other members of Donna's family. Of course, you've got the people that we'd already seen beforehand, like Sylvia, who I really liked in this episode, because in comparison to the End of Time, and of course back during series 4, where she was admittedly quite an unlikable character, but that was on purpose because she didn't really show enough emotion and love to her daughter, that she kind of brought out the cynical side within Donna, and then you see within the End of Time how she slowly mellows up to that. And here, where we have her in the Star Beast, she really does feel as if she is actually trying to get the best for Donna, and she is trying to make more of an effort to show how much she cares for her. And I really just liked her presence throughout the whole episode, especially the way she tries to hide all the alien stuff from Donna. I thought was really funny. You will of course get Sean Temple in here as well, who I actually thought was kind of an MVP. I really loved him in this episode. Like, all of his comedic beats I thought were brilliant, and I just like that we got a bit more with him, because of all the characters, we didn't really get as much with him in terms of like the returning members of the Noble family. He was probably the one we got the least of beforehand, but I really like what they did with him here. He was a very funny presence throughout the entire episode. And then of course you've got Rose in this episode, and I really like the stuff that they did with her for the most part. I think the way that they tackled some of the elements of her being transgender, I actually thought was pretty well done, especially like that scene where you have those kids on the street dead naming her. I thought that was like a really, really powerful scene, how it kind of highlighted an issue that is unfortunately still prevalent in today's society, and I like how the show addressed that. And I just in general liked her character, and I liked the way that they introduced her in the story, and she very much had a very important role with her building a relationship and trust with Beep the Meep, and how that progressed through the episode. So I really like what they did with Rose for the most part, save for an issue that I have relating to the ending of the episode, which I will get into later on. But for the most part, I really enjoyed them as a character. We have Shirley as well, who is a unit agent that we meet early on in the episode, and again, I really liked her character in this as well. I thought her rapport between her and the 14th Doctor was really good. Hopefully we'll see more of her in the Giggle, because I will assume that she is coming back for that one. But I really liked her rapport with the 14th Doctor, and I really like to see what they're going to do with her character in the future, because I really liked what they did with her in this episode. Of course, that kind of leads me on to them bringing Unit back. I really liked seeing Unit back in this special as well, because of course we last saw them in Power of the Doctor, which was Jodie's last episode. And again, just seeing them here I thought was really, really cool to see. And of course having them there brings upon a lot of action sequences as well, which was another positive for this episode. The action was very well done, and I loved all of the action sequences that we got here. Of course, that massive fight that you have where it's a shootout between the Wrath Warriors, who are the aliens that are after Beep the Meep, up against these soldiers that Beep the Meep has possessed. And then of course you've got the actual non-possessed unit soldiers, so you've got kind of a three-way battle going on, and just the spectacle of it I thought was brilliant. Like, it just shows the production values of how far Doctor Who has come along since those early days. Like, to get stuff like this, it just looks really good, and it's really well helmed, and it looks gorgeous to look at. Direction wise, this episode is practically faultless. I mean, it's directed by Rachel Talalay, who, if you are synonymous with that name with Doctor Who, she's arguably one of the best directors we've ever had in the modern show. I honestly think her work on this show has been absolutely fantastic, and I loved pretty much everything that she did in this episode. I mean, she directed Heaven Sent, which is one of the greatest episodes of Doctor Who of all time. I certainly think it's the best looking episode, and the way that she kind of incorporates just great camera movements, just showing off the scale of sequences, whether it be action or us seeing the new TARDIS with it. And I do hope that we see her direct another episode in Ncuti's era of the show, because I know that she isn't directing either of the other two specials, so it would be really nice if she does end up coming back to the show, just because I think she's an amazing director, and I just want to see more work done by her in the Doctor Who universe. I also think this episode honestly really, really hit a lot of the time with the humor. Like, when the humor lands in this episode, I thought it was incredibly funny. Like, there's so many great jokes and great scenes, mainly with Sean. I thought a lot of the stuff with Sean was, again, very funny, and there was just other funny bits, like how, of course, Donna missing the spaceship, and just other jokes that go on throughout the episode. I think it's got a very good playful tone to it. This definitely feels like, and I could tell from the trailers, was going to be the more light-hearted out of the three specials that we're getting, but I really liked what they did here, and I do like that tone and the humour that they incorporated in there. I think Russell T Davies did a very good job with that. It very much felt like the kind of jokes and vibes that you would get from these sort of stories during his first era in the show, so I really liked that, and I like that continuity. And going on into the episode as well, I really like the way that they actually adapted the original Star Beast storyline, because if you guys don't know, this is actually based on, I believe it's a 1980 comic that featured the 4th Doctor. That was actually involved Beep the Meep, and of course the big twist in that comic book, and of course here in the episode, is of course that Beep the Meep is actually the villain. They're not actually this innocent creature, they are actually a bit of an evil monstrosity, and they of course have managed to hypnotize these unit soldiers into working for them. And I really loved the way that they portrayed that twist, and I loved the way that they completely flipped the performance of Beep the Meep once that reveal takes place. I thought Miriam Margolyes was really good with the voice work. Just how she was able to really suck you in into, if you had never read the source material, you would have thought this is just a kind, cute alien, just completely misunderstood. And then of course when the twist happens, she completely changes her performance, and she really plays up the campiness of it, which I just love to say. I love the campiness of that performance. And Miriam Margolyes, I mean, how can you not love Miriam Margolyes? Anybody from the UK that doesn't love that woman is honestly just, it's absolute sacrilege. And I thought she was honestly really good in this episode. And going on further into the episode as well, I really liked, especially as somebody who loves the character of Donna Noble, and the way that they ended her storyline originally, of course with Series 4 when she had her memories erased, and then the ending that they gave her in End of Time Part 2, where she had the lottery ticket and the Doctor was trying to give her this really great life that was kind of him making up for the fact that he had to erase her memories. I love the way that they address both of those plot points in this episode and give great conclusions to them. Like with the lottery ticket, we found out that Donna gave it away to charity, and it was because she felt like it was the right thing to do in honor of the Doctor without realizing it. I thought that was a really nice way to address that situation going into the episode. And then of course the big one being with how they conclude the question of would Donna remember who the Doctor was, and of course she does. And it gets to the situation where in order to stop Beat the Meat destroying Earth by releasing its ship and going away up into the sky, he has to give Donna her memories back. And I thought that was just an incredibly emotional scene. It was by far the best scene of the whole episode in my opinion. Like the acting from David Tennant and Catherine Tate I thought was phenomenal, and I thought they did a really good job of really just making you as an audience member just sweat in anticipation, because obviously it's like you're going to get to see these two interact as friends again, which is amazing, but you know the consequence of what will happen because of this. And I just thought they played into that so well. And having that short scene where of course Donna has all the memories back, she's flicking all these switches, and it's so great and euphoric, and then the realization of we're going to lose this character, like that was just such good drama for me. And I love the way that they played that out with the drama, the trigger words that the Doctor says to Donna when he's trying to activate the Time Lord mind within her, and then of course when we think Donna's dying, he has her in her arms. That was really emotional. And then actually in a complete twist, which I thought I was going to hate, I actually liked the way that they addressed how Donna survives the meta-crisis situation, with it being revealed that she has actually passed part of her Time Lord genes down to Rose because of the fact she's had a daughter. And I thought the way that they addressed that in the episode was actually pretty smart, and I really do like that. It was something where I thought whatever reasoning they're going to give as to how Donna survives this, I'm not going to like it, but when I saw the explanation they actually went with, I was like, that's actually pretty smart. Fair play, Russell, because I definitely wouldn't have thought of that beforehand. And the last positives that I'll have with this episode is I think the music by Murray Gold was really good. I have missed him as a composer. I respect Sega Nakanola for the work that he did during Chibnall's era, but that kind of music I think it works in tandem with the show, but it's not really the kind of music I can even listen to on its own, and it isn't particularly very memorable to me personally. Whereas I think with Murray Gold, I think his scores are a lot more dynamic. They're a lot more interesting to listen to with the actual TV show when you're watching it together, and you can also listen to it on its own. I just loved his music throughout this entire episode, and it is really nice to have him back. Of course, he does follow over some of the previous themes that he'd used beforehand, like The Doctor Forever, and even I'm the Doctor, which I'm pretty sure I heard during the sequence where Donna has her memory back. I thought just he did a really good job with the score, the playful side, the more dramatic side, kind of the wonder aspect. It kind of felt Spielberg in places, especially during the first bit of the episode where it's very much kind of got them strong E.T. vibes. So I really liked his work on there. And of course, the new TARDIS I absolutely adore, like I mentioned earlier. I love how grand it is, kind of the scale of it, and how you have that shot where David Tennant's just running around the entire set like an absolute fanboy. But I really like this TARDIS. Of course, it is a shame that Donna managed to spill tea on it literally about 5 minutes after we got introduced to it, but it does look like a really cool TARDIS set, and I'm very interested to see if they're going to explore the different rooms that are on there. And lastly, of course, the fact that Wilf is somehow still out there. Fingers crossed he does have his cameo in the Giggle, because of course we know Bernard Cribbin sadly passed away during filming of these specials. I do hope his cameo appearance is still present in the Giggle, because honestly it will melt my heart, because I love that man. I love Wilf as a character. So the fact that he's still out there and we get it confirmed in this episode that he isn't dead hopefully leaves me out with hope that we could actually see him and Donna and the Doctor reunite, which would be really, really cool. Would definitely make me cry to tears, because I love him as a character. Now, in terms of mixed elements for the episode, the only real mixed element that I have that is not a full-on negative or positive was the opening recap that we got before the new title sequence. I think it works in terms of obviously recapping the adventures of the Doctor and Donna, and of course all leading up into this episode to give any viewers that may have forgotten or have not watched those episodes context. But I don't think it actually worked as an opening scene to the episode. I think what I probably would have done if I was the BBC or the marketing team is I would have just released this as its own separate, like, almost trailer before the episode dropped. I think you could have just easily gone into this episode straight into the title sequence without an opening scene, in my opinion, because as an opening scene it just felt a little bit unusual, the way that they approached it with the fourth wall breaking. And also that admittedly kind of wonky green screen with David Tennant just standing in the middle of space on absolutely nothing. So yeah, I don't dislike it because I understand why it's there, but for me personally, I don't feel like it was completely necessary as the opening scene for the episode, and they could have just cut it out and just made it into its own separate trailer. But that's just my own opinion, so that's why I ended up putting it in the mix section. In terms of the negatives, the only real negatives that I have with the Star Beast, and there's really only mainly two. The first one being that I do feel like the ending of the episode, the way that it wraps up the destruction of London from Meep's ship, that Donna and Rose get rid of the meta-crisis from their genes, I do think was a little bit rushed, in my opinion. The way that they kind of just, one, with the whole London getting destroyed by the Meep ship just gets reversed from the Doctor and Donna solving the situation. I did find that a little bit anticlimactic. It reminded me a lot of the way that Russell T Davies ended the Series 3 finale, which I also wasn't a big fan of, so I wasn't too keen on that, the way that they just completely undid everything. There was no consequences, like London wasn't destroyed or anything because everything just got reversed back to normal. That felt like a bit of a cop-out to me personally. And of course with the Donna and Rose giving up the meta-crisis, again, kind of felt very abrupt out of nowhere. It just felt a bit weird that they were just able to get rid of it so easily. And there's also a line of dialogue before them which kind of leads into my second negative, which was that there were a few times where there were either scenes that were either meant to be pointing across a message or a joke that I was just a bit confused by, and they just didn't really land with me. Like, you have the scene with, which has pretty much been completely widely talked about on Twitter, at the end of the episode, where a line that Rose says towards the 14th Doctor. I don't feel like the kind of person to talk about it on here, because otherwise it's going to get very political and I don't want that on the channel. But basically, I can see what Russell was going for, and I don't think he meant it in a mean-spirited way, but it just felt a bit clunky with the way it was executed in terms of how the dialogue was written on page and how it was performed on screen. Just didn't really click for me personally. And there's another scene like that when the Doctor is talking to Meep in Donna's house, and it's about the whole subject of pronouns, and I completely understand why it's there, and I think it's there with good intentions, but again, I feel like the dialogue in that scene felt a bit clunky with the way that they approached the scenario. It did feel a little bit on screen. Again, completely understand and completely am with what they were going for, but in terms of the execution with the dialogue, did feel a little bit strange in that regard. Other than those negatives, I actually did really enjoy the Star Beast. It was very much a fun episode, a nice light-hearted way to kick off these 60th anniversary specials, which I very much appreciated. Like, again, as somebody who loves the 10th Doctor, who loves Donna Noble, that whole kind of era of the show that we'd had beforehand, having them all come back in this special, of course, was going to appease me anyway. I really liked all that side of things, exploring, of course, more of Donna's family, the whole situation with the storyline with Beep the Meep and the Ralph Warriors, and with the unit being entangled in there as well, I thought was really good. And of course the music and the direction, I just thought was really well done. Of course, other than those few negatives, did really enjoy the episode, and I had very much a blast throughout the entire thing. I'm not going to give it a score just yet, just because I feel like I'm going to hold off until we get the next few specials, and then once we get to the end of the giggle and I give you my review, then I'll probably retroactively go back and I'll give the Star Beast a rating, just because I want to see how things play out and whether that will maybe affect the way that I look upon this special in retrospect. But overall, I very much enjoyed it, and if you are somebody that loves Doctor Who or has been falling out of love with the show during the Chibnall era, I would definitely give this one a watch. Definitely will appease your interest, especially if you, like me, you are a fan of Russell T Davies and that era of the show. This will be very much worth your time. But thank you very much for watching my review for the Star Beast, the first episode of the 60th anniversary specials for Doctor Who. If you liked the video, then please hit the like button, and if you are new to the channel, then please hit the subscribe button as well, because we are very close to 1k subscribers, very close to that big milestone, so the sooner we can get there, the better it will be, and I'll be immensely grateful for your support in that regard. But hopefully I'll be seeing you all again in the next video on the channel. Goodbye.